It's the end of the world as we know it. Astronomers spotted a dying star swallowing a large planet, a discovery that fills in a missing link in understanding the fates of Earth and many other planets. Astronomers have witnessed a star gobbling up a planet, offering the first direct glimpse of a gnarly process called planetary engulfment that most likely awaits Earth in the deep future. Scientists serendipitously spotted a gas planet like Jupiter but possibly larger, as it was swallowed up by an aging Sun-like star about 12,000 light-years from Earth. Tantalizing hints of engulfment events have been spotted in the past, but nobody has ever caught a star in the act of devouring a planet until now. The discovery provides a missing link in our understanding of the evolution and final fates of planetary systems, including the one we inhabit, the astronomers wrote in their study, which was published on Wednesday in the journal Nature. This is the eventual fate of the Earth, said Kishal A.D., a NASA Einstein Fellow at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and one of the study's authors. We are really seeing what the Earth is going to run into 5 billion years from now. The life cycles of stars are linked to their masses. Small stars, like red dwarfs, may shine for trillions of years, whereas the most massive stars explode just a few million years after their births. As stars like the Sun start to die after billions of years, they transform into a class called red giants that expand hundreds of times in size, consuming anything within their advancing borders. Signs of engulfment events are littered across the Milky Way. The light of some stars is polluted with the chemical signatures of planets, suggesting that whole worlds are being digested before our eyes. Scientists have also spotted hundreds of planets with small orbits that are doomed to fall within the radius of red giants in the future. But while stars clearly consume the occasional planet, capturing this moment is challenging because the light sparked by these events is faint and ephemeral. In fact, Dr. D was using the Zwicky Transient Facility, a camera on a telescope at the Palomar Observatory in California, in May 2020 to look for something completely different, merging stars, called red novas. It was in those observations that he stumbled across a curious burst of visible light. What unfolded was like a detective story, Dr. D said. To identify the burst, his team obtained visible light observations of the source captured in November 2020 by the W.M. Keck Observatory in Hawaii. Those images revealed a star chilling at about 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, about 10 times colder than the searing temperatures expected from red novas. Puzzled, Dr. D and his colleagues observed the star again, this time in infrared light, using another camera at the Palomar Observatory and NASA's NEO-EYES Space Telescope. The system turned out to be brilliant in infrared, a band of the light spectrum that is ideal for spotting faint objects that don't emit much energy. It dawned on the researchers that they were most likely watching a star gulping down a planet in real time. My first reaction was disbelief, Dr. D said. We see the before and the after of planetary engulfment, he added, but these observations give us the first glimpse into how that process plays out. The initial burst detected by the Zwicky Observatory, which lasted 10 days, occurred at the moment that a dying star at last fully enveloped a gas planet no more than 10 times the mass of Jupiter. For more than a year before its luminous demise, the planet skimmed the outskirts of the star, pulling off chunks of its atmosphere, which explains why the researchers saw cool gas and dust hanging around the system. After the burst, the star eerily glowed for about 6 months as it swallowed the remains of the planet. Lorenzo Spina, an astrophysicist at the Astronomical Observatory of Padua in Italy who studies planetary engulfment, called the team's conclusions very solid and described the discovery as groundbreaking. This is a very important missing piece of the entire story, Dr. Spina said. Now, we are going to have a more complete understanding of this entire process. Such incredible events can shed light on a host of juicy mysteries, including the odds that life might exist elsewhere in the universe. Starlight that contains chemical hints of planetary morsels can be mined for clues about the interior composition of worlds in other systems. Building an inventory of these ingredients can help to estimate the number of star systems with the right materials to support habitable habitable environments. Now that scientists have seen a real example of planetary engulfment, they can search the skies for similar patterns that fit the blueprint. The new observations also provide a grisly sneak peek of the literal end of the world. When the Sun enters its red giant phase, our familiar home planet is likely to die within its infernal embrace. Finding an event like this really puts all of the theories that have been out there to the most stringent tests possible. Dr. D said, "It really opens up this entire new field of research. The juicy secrets of stars that eat their planets." As scientists study thousands of planets around the galaxy, they are learning more about worlds that get swallowed up by their stars. The Sun has nourished life on Earth, but it will not be so hospitable forever. 5 billion years into the future, our solar system's star will grow so immense that Mercury, Venus and, possibly, Earth will be swallowed whole. It may seem like an ignominious end to our beloved home. But scientists think that this process of planetary engulfment, in which stars devour their own planets, is common in the life cycle of star systems. Researchers call them cannibal stars, although it is planets they eat, not other stars, and they might explain tantalizing mysteries in astronomy, weird orbital configurations and polluted starlight that have puzzled scientists for years. But there is a more basic appeal. Studying planetary engulfment may help us understand the very long-term fate of Earth and provide clues in the search for extraterrestrial life. What could be more human than forecasting the end of the world and pondering whether we are alone in the universe? For the case of the Earth, I think it's rather unclear whether it's going to be engulfed or not, but it's certainly going to become impossible to live on, said Ricardo Yarza, a graduate student in astronomy at the University of California, Santa Cruz, who studies planetary engulfment. It's always interesting to imagine a civilization becoming aware of this like us and realizing that at some point, you've got to leave home. Stars come in many varieties, including simmering dwarfs and brilliant hypergiants. The life expectancy and ultimate fate of a star, and, therefore, any planets orbiting it, is tied to its mass. Red dwarfs may alive for trillions of years, whereas massive stars blow up within a few million. Sun-sized stars begin their death rites when they run out of hydrogen, causing their borders to expand hundreds of times over. During this red giant phase, many stars devour their innermost planets before exhausting their remaining fuel. Red giants, which were discovered about a century ago, sometimes make appearances in science fiction stories as ominous backdrops to doomed civilizations or as visions of our solar system's distant future. Though we've often imagined the world-ending creep of advancing stars, the actual process of planetary engulfment remains shrouded in mystery. As early as 1967, for instance, astronomers pondered the ultimate fate of the planetary material that is engulfed by stars. But they could only speculate, in part because scientists weren't able to confirm that planets orbited other stars until the 1990s. Since that time, a staggering 5,000 exoplanets have been detected by missions such as NASA's Kepler Space Observatory, ushering in a new understanding of the countless ways in which star systems evolve and how they eventually die. The next generation of observatories on Earth and beyond, including the newly operational James Webb Space Telescope, will image these worlds in never-before-seen detail, shedding light on their odds of hosting life. The sheer abundance of known exoplanets, especially those in tight orbits, implies that the lives of many worlds will end inside the bellies of their host stars. But there are many gaps in astronomers' knowledge because it is difficult to catch stars in the act of devouring planets. Creating models of engulfment events is also tricky, partly because of the extreme disparities between the sizes of stars and their planetary meals. Understanding planetary engulfment and how it affects the fates of planetary systems involves answering several questions, said Mr. Yarza, who presented new research on this topic before the American Astronomical Society in June. What happens to planets that are engulfed? Do some of them survive? Are all of them going to be destroyed? What happens to the star as a result of engulfment? To play out some of those scenarios, Mr. Yarza and his colleagues modeled engulfments of planets larger than Jupiter in their study, which has been submitted to the Astrophysical Journal. To account for the size discrepancies of stars and planets, the researchers developed an approach that homed in on the gassy outer region of the star where planets are first engulfed. The results suggest that stars with massive planets may sometimes bite off more than they can chew, with extreme consequences for both objects. Whereas Earth-sized worlds are gobbled up without a fuss, planets that are much more massive than Jupiter can take some stars down from the inside. Picture one of these uber Jupiters as it is at last overtaken by the fringes of the star.